Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a highly specific, custom-tailored analysis prepared for you today.
Yeah, a really critical one.
Exactly. We're focusing on an unfolding geopolitical crisis that is literally reshaping the Middle East in real time.
It's moving incredibly fast.
Right. And if you've been watching the news, you know that the events of Sunday, March 4th, 2026, represent a massive tectonic shift in international relations.
Absolutely.
We are specifically examining the reported death of former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad.
Right, which occurred right in the middle of this sweeping U.S.-Israeli military campaign.
The one officially designated as Operation Epic Fury.
Yes. I mean, the sheer density of information coming out of the region over the last 48 hours it's just overwhelming.
It really is.
So our objective today is to help you navigate this complex landscape. We want to break down the immediate, tactical realities on the ground while also contextualizing the historical weight of these developments.
And to do that, to cut through that inherent fog of war, we have assembled a pretty diverse stack of sources for you.
We have to, yeah.
Right. We're analyzing official reports from Iranian state media, specifically Al-Alaneh and the Fars news agency.
Right.
And we're cross-referencing those with reporting from the Israeli outlet Ma'ariv. For some broader international context, we're looking at analyses from The Telegraph and Daily Saba. And finally, we are parsing official, real-time updates directly from the United States Central Command.
The CENTCOM.
Exactly, CNTCOM. Our mission here is to synthesize these rapidly moving data points into a coherent picture for you.
But before we begin unpacking the timeline, we really must establish a critical baseline for our analysis today.
Definitely.
The source material we are working with, it details highly sensitive military operations, intense kinetic warfare, and frankly, extremely charged political rhetoric from the United States, Israel, and Iran.
Right, from all sides.
Exactly. So we want to explicitly state to you, the listener, that we are not endorsing any side, any military action, or any political viewpoint contained in these reports.
We're just looking at the data.
Right. Our sole function in this deep dive is to objectively and impartially report on the contents of the provided material. We are just synthesizing the documented facts to help you understand a highly volatile situation.
And that objectivity is going to be essential as we parse through these conflicting narratives. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the immediate facts surrounding the military strike reported on Sunday, March 1st.
Right.
Iranian state media announced that a joint U.S.-Israeli airstrike targeted a specific residence. This was in the Narmak neighborhood.
Which is located in eastern Tehran.
Right. And according to these initial reports, 69-year-old Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was killed in the bombardment.
Along with several members of his security detail.
Yes, but to evaluate this strike in Narmak, we really need to zoom out.
We do. We have to look at the broader operational scope of Operation Epic Fury. Because Ahmadinejad's reported death, it's not an isolated decapitation strike.
No, not at all.
It follows a monumental event from just one day prior.
Right, Saturday.
Exactly. On Saturday, Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was reported killed in a separate wave of U.S.-Israeli airstrikes.
Just massive news.
Huge. And the scale of the military coordination over that weekend is staggering. I mean, Iranian authorities reported that Saturday's operations alone resulted in up to 201 fatalities.
201?
Yes. And 747 injuries.
Wow.
And those were distributed across 24 different Iranian provinces.
24 provinces simultaneously. That really illustrates the unprecedented scope of Operation Epic Fury.
Yeah, it's not a surgical thing.
Right. We are looking at a campaign designed to systematically dismantle infrastructure across the entire nation. That requires extensive coordination, electronic warfare, and, the total suppression of integrated air defenses.
Absolutely.
But as we focus back on the specific reports regarding Ahmadinejad, we immediately hit a significant intelligence contradiction.
We certainly do. The intelligence landscape right now is just incredibly fractured.
Right.
For instance, you mentioned the Israeli publication Ma'ariv. They reported that Ahmadinejad was actually already under house arrest at the time the airstrike hit that Narmak residence.
Okay.
But then reporting from The Telegraph points out something totally different. They noted that several Iranian Telegram channels began disseminating a statement attributed to Ahmadinejad.
And this was after the strike?
Yes, after the state media reported his death.
Wow.
Right. And in this unverified post, he supposedly condemns U.S. and Israeli aggression, which of course implies he either survived the strike or maybe was never at the residence at all.
So it creates this classic intelligence vacuum. You have Israeli sources suggesting he was a detained asset of the regime.
Right.
You have Iranian state media definitively reporting his death. And then you have independent channels suggesting he's alive and defiant.
What's fascinating here is how the physical realities of the conflict compound this fog of war.
What do you mean?
Well, there is currently a near-total internet blackout imposed across Iran.
Ah, right.
Because the digital infrastructure is either severely degraded from the strikes or intentionally throttled by the regime, independent verification of those telegram posts is virtually impossible.
We just can't know for sure.
Exactly. We cannot easily determine if they are authentic or maybe pre-scheduled messages triggered by his staff or even just deliberate disinformation.
Right.
Yet it remains highly notable that Iranian state media, which is tightly controlled by the establishment, has not walked back or retracted its initial reports of his death.
And in a state-controlled media environment, an unretracted report of a former president's death, that carries significant weight, even with all the digital noise.
Definitely.
To really understand why Ahmadinejad's fake commands such intense global scrutiny right now, I think we need to trace his political trajectory.
It's quite a story.
It really is. Born in 1956 in the village of Aradan in Semnan province.
Very humble beginnings.
Yeah, he eventually moved to Tehran. He built his career out in the provinces, serving as governor of Ardbil before returning to the capital as mayor.
Right.
But his pivotal moment arrived in 2005. That's when he ran for president and achieved this stunning upset against Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani in a runoff election.
Becoming Iran's 6th president.
Exactly.
And that 2005 victory, you have to understand, it was a seismic shock to the Iranian political establishment.
Total disruption.
Yes. Rafsanjani was a founding pillar of the Islamic Republic. He represented the entrenched, wealthy cleric-bazaar alliance.
The ultimate insider.
Exactly. Ahmadinejad, by contrast, he literally campaigned in a simple windbreaker.
Right.
He positioned himself as a populist outsider, appealing directly to the rural working class and veterans of the Iran-Iraq War. It was a complete ideological and stylistic rejection of the traditional power brokers.
And he took that combative populist style straight to the international stage during his 2 terms, which ended in 2013.
You really did.
He became the face of Iranian defiance. I mean, he hosted the infamous A World Without Zionism conference.
Right, which the international community widely condemned as a platform for state-sponsored Holocaust denial.
Exactly. He frequently weaponized the rhetoric of Iran's founding leader, Ruhollah Khomeini. He publicly quoted that description of Israel as a disgraceful, cancerous growth that must be wiped off the map.
And those weren't just provocative sound bites either. They fundamentally altered the diplomatic posture of the West toward Tehran.
How so?
Well, his rhetoric provided the political capital necessary for the United States and European allies to implement a strategy of total isolation.
Ah, the sanctions.
Right. Furthermore, he aggressively accelerated Iran's nuclear program, and when those crippling international sanctions came down, he just brushed them off. He called them mere worthless papers.
Wow.
But the reality of those sanctions absolutely devastated the Iranian economy. It collapsed the currency and severely impacted the daily lives of the very working-class citizens who had elected him.
Here's where it gets really interesting. His trajectory completely inverts when you look at his domestic standing.
Oh, completely.
Because in 2009, he was still the establishment's chosen candidate. He presided over the brutal and deadly suppression of the Green Movement protests following his heavily disputed re-election.
Right. He had the full backing of the Shiite clergy and the hardliner parliamentary factions back then.
Yeah. But by the time he left office, that relationship was in ruins.
It was a spectacular political divorce.
Yeah.
The economic crisis engineered by his dismissal of the international sanctions made him a massive liability. The clergy found him increasingly unpredictable and, frankly, difficult to control.
But they didn't just cast him out entirely, did they?
Interestingly, no. Despite this fracturing relationship, the Supreme Leader still appointed him to the Expediency Council after his presidency.
Which is supposed to mediate disputes between Parliament and the Guardian Council, right?
Exactly. It was intended to keep him integrated within the system, keep a close eye on him, but it ultimately provided him with a highly visible platform.
And he used it.
He absolutely did. He launched a second act as a vocal dissident.
It is such a stark ideological reversal. Moving from the ultimate regime insider, the guy who utilized state security to crush protests, to an outspoken dissident. It really underscores the fracturing within Tehran's political elite.
It really does.
In recent years, he openly demanded the release of political prisoners. He challenged the structural corruption of the state apparatus, and he directly questioned the authority of Khamenei.
Which brings crucial context to that Maariv reporting we mentioned earlier.
Right, about the house arrest.
Yes. If Ahmadinejad had transitioned from a loyal operative to a perceived internal threat challenging the regime's legitimacy, then the claim that he was under house arrest during the airstrikes becomes highly plausible.
It makes perfect sense.
In moments of existential crisis, authoritarian structures frequently move to neutralize internal critics. They want to prevent them from capitalizing on the chaos.
And existential crisis is exactly what we are looking at with Operation Epic Fury. This is a profound kinetic reality with heavy casualties. Looking at the military disclosures, the U.S. Central Command provided a specific update via their X account. This is at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, March 1st.
What did it say?
The statement reads, and I'm quoting here, 3 U.S. service members have been killed in action, and 5 are seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. Several others sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions and are in the process of being returned to duty.
The precise phrasing of that CNTCOM release gives us a lot of insight into the operational tempo.
Tell me more.
Well, the mention of personnel with concussions and shrapnel injuries returning to duty, that indicates an active, ongoing combat environment. It means forward medical triage is heavily engaged right now.
Right.
The update explicitly states that major combat operations are continuing and the situation remains highly fluid.
And they're holding back some details, too.
Yes, they are adhering to strict Department of Defense protocols. They're withholding the identities of the fallen until 24 hours after next of kin notification. And significantly, they have not disclosed the specific geographic locations of these casualties.
And that lack of geographic specifics regarding the U.S. casualties really highlights the vast footprint of this conflict, especially when you factor in Iran's immediate response.
Right, they're counteroffensive.
Exactly. Following the reported deaths of Khamenei and Ahmadinejad, Tehran initiated a massive retaliation. At approximately 6:15 a.m. local time, the semi-official Fars news agency broadcast a stark warning.
I remember reading that.
They promised the most devastating offensive operation in the history of the Islamic Republic of Iran's armed forces, specifically targeting occupied territories and American terrorist bases.
And they executed that threat with a sweeping geographical reach.
They really did.
The retaliation map, detailed in the sources, shows a coordinated barrage of ballistic missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. They targeted assets across Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Oman.
8 different nations.
Yes, this is not a localized skirmish. It is a synchronized attempt to project power and inflict damage across the entire strategic depth of the Arabian Peninsula and the broader Gulf region.
Let's drill down into the specifics of those targets, because they reveal the tactical objectives of Iran's armed forces here.
Good idea.
In Bahrain, the Telegraph reports a strike on a high-tech radar station. In Abu Dhabi, within the UAE, projectiles targeted commercial hotels as well as a French naval base.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can really see a multi-tiered strategy playing out.
Break that down for us.
Okay, striking a radar station in Bahrain, that is a direct attempt to blind early warning systems and degrade the Allied air defense network. Hitting hotels in Abu Dhabi is designed to induce economic panic and disrupt international travel. And then targeting a French naval facility serves as a stark warning to European nations that are supporting the U.S. and Israeli operations.
That makes sense. But the most significant escalation occurred in Qatar.
Right.
The sources indicate an overwhelming barrage of at least 66 missiles directed specifically at Qatar.
66?
That number is just staggering. Qatar, of course, hosts Al Udeid Air Base. That's the largest United States military installation in the region, and a critical node for CENTCOM's forward operations.
Launching 66 missiles at a single nation hosting a paramount U.S. facility. That is what military analysts call a saturation attack.
A saturation attack.
Yes. The objective is to fire enough munitions simultaneously to exhaust or completely overwhelm layered air defense systems. Things like Patriot or SAD batteries.
Just throw everything at it so something gets through.
Exactly. And the fact that the sources report 16 individuals were injured by falling shrapnel suggests that while air defenses likely intercepted many of the projectiles, the sheer volume of the barrage still resulted in ground-level impact and casualties.
They're actively attempting to make the logistical hubs of their adversaries uninhabitable.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize the intelligence we've covered. Within an incredibly compressed 48-hour window, The geopolitical architecture of the Middle East has been fundamentally dismantled.
Yes, dismantled is the right word.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has been killed. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, a man who defined a decade of Iranian defiance before becoming a marginalized critic, is reported dead in a targeted strike, even despite those lingering intelligence gaps fueled by the internet blackout.
Right.
And in retaliation, Tehran has executed a saturation missile campaign across 8 different nations, plunging the U.S., Israel, and Iran into a devastating region-wide conventional war.
And for you, listening to this breakdown, the implications of these events extend far beyond the borders of the Middle East. You are witnessing a historical rupture.
Truly historical.
The nations currently absorbing ballistic missile fire Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, these are the central arteries of the global energy market. They are the primary transit hubs for international commerce.
Right.
The structural balance of power is being actively contested with heavy munitions right now. The economic shocks, the disruption to global supply chains, and the shifting of international military alliances resulting from Operation Epic Fury, this will definitively alter the global landscape for decades to come.
It is a stark reminder of how rapidly decades of entrenched geopolitical tension can ignite into open, borderless conflict.
It certainly is. And as we process the staggering scale of this escalation, this raises an important question.
What's that?
Well, we have discussed the reporting deaths of both Khamenei and Ahmadinejad. That represents the sudden removal of both the supreme authority and a highly visible populist dissident faction, regardless of whether Ahmadinejad's somehow survived, as those unverified Telegram posts suggest. His marginalization and Khamenei's death create a profound, immediate power vacuum in Tehran.
A massive vacuum.
Yes. So how does a structurally weakened regime, actively engaged in a multi-front war with the United States and Israel, manage the inevitable generational struggle for control?
That's a great point.
Iran has a massive, historically disenfranchised youth population that has repeatedly clashed with the establishment.
Right.
Furthermore, looking outward, how do neighboring nations, particularly those on the threshold of nuclear capability, recalibrate their own deterrence strategies after witnessing the sheer speed and destructive capacity of Operation Epic Fury?
That is a phenomenal lens through which to view the coming days. The internal struggle for Iran's future, playing out simultaneously against the backdrop of an unprecedented regional war.
It's going to be a highly volatile period.
It absolutely is. We want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We understand this material is dense and the subject matter is incredibly serious, but your commitment to understanding the nuances of these historical shifts is exactly why we produce this show.
Thank you for listening.
Continue to evaluate the sources, watch the operational updates closely, and remain engaged as this deeply complex situation